So I'll get that from the Zoom cloud later. All right, here we go. We are recording right now, and we are the Waking by Yahuwah Fellowship Group. I'm Doug. This is my mother with me today, and our sister Marissa and our sister Sadie will be joining us soon. We're going to be doing a study today called The Differences in the Book of Proverbs. And so let me just open up the actual document real quick. Let me see here. Where do I have it? Shalom, Isaiah. All right, so brothers, Isaiah just joined us. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to open up the document from my Google Docs, which I actually like better than Microsoft Word. All right.
No problem at all.
All right, here we go. All right, differences in the book of Proverbs. I'm going to start us off by Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, because that's the first major difference we're going to see here, where the Masoretic text is lacking this whole paragraph here. Okay, so I'm going to be going to the e-sword for the sake of time. I'll be using the e-sword here. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm using the Brenton's English Septuagint, which, by the way, you can get free on eSword and on MySword for your phone. My mom and I have it on our Android phones for the MySword for free. You can find it on Bible Hub too, to be honest. You can even access it through the Bible Hub website, the Brenton's. Very easy to find. So it says, Proverbs 1:7, the Brenton's English Septuagint says, the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and obviously that would be in the Masoretic also, but here's the part they don't have. And there is to understanding to all that practice it, and reverence towards Elohim is the beginning of discernment, but the wicked will set at nothing wisdom and instruction. So that whole paragraph is missing. I don't know, the Catholic Bibles might have it because sometimes, all right, because sometimes they have I know that the Catholic Bibles use the Septuagint of Psalms, so I just wanted to check to make sure I wasn't misspeaking there. Sometimes they do have stuff that blends with the Septuagint in that aspect. The Latin Vulgate actually started off using the Septuagint for its manuscript, but then St. Jerome decided to side with the Hebrew Masoretic halfway through his manuscript, which I think is stupid in my opinion. But anyway, so here we go. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 29 is the next difference. So we're going to be jumping all around here. We're going to be kind of going quick through the chapters here. We're only showing main huge differences. I really tried preparing for this study not to use like little linguistic differences, whatever. These are major differences. Here's one here, and this is important too because a lot of people don't understand who the person wisdom is. Here we go. Oh, come on, stupid eSword. Come on, stop messing up. All right, here we go. Let me reshare that because eSword wanted to fizzle out for no reason for a second. All right, here we go. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 29. For they hated wisdom, and remember, in the original manuscripts there was no quotations. So that would not break. It would be one complete statement. For they hated wisdom and did not choose the word of Yahuwah. Who's the word of Yahuwah? Revelations 19. His name is the word of Yahuwah. So those that reject Yahusha reject wisdom. Basically, that's what it's saying in Proverbs 1:29. Now, of course, the Masoretic would say they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahuwah. So, the only problem with that is they take away the person. They take away the actual being that is the word of Yahuwah by changing it from the word of Yahuwah to the fear of, because the fear of is just talking about reverencing the Father. It's not an actual person. You see what I'm saying? So them adding their little vowel points in the modern Babylonian Hebrew changed the word of Yahuwah to the fear of Yahuwah. See, little changes like that can really mess up stuff. Just little minor changes like that. My dad told me a while ago, you change one word in a sentence, you change the whole meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, and I also have a New Testament cross-reference that, which you wouldn't get in our modern Bibles because they use the Masoretic text. So the wording is off, and also there's like half of the verse is missing. So we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. What I should do for you guys is use the parallel option. I don't know why I didn't do this. It'd be 10 times easier because this will show you both the King James on one side and the Brenton Septuagint on the other. So you can see the huge difference here. Okay, see, boom, boom. Turns it into a parallel Bible. All right, so here we go. Go all the way to verse 10. See, here we go. So the King James will say, the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the set apart one of the set apart is understanding. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When the Septuagint says saints or set apart ones. So it's even more specific just in that aspect. The Septuagint says the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and the counsel. So the Masoretic doesn't even have counsel there. The counsel of set apart ones is understanding. For to know the law is a character of the sound mind. This is a big thing not to have. And I kind of find it funny because this is supposed to be the king, the Masoretic text is supposed to be the authorized Jewish Old Testament. So I kind of find it funny they have something missing that's referring to the Torah. It's kind of hilarious in a way because this part is referencing the law. For to know the law is the character of a sound mind, and the Septuagint has it in there. But the Masoretic, as you can see here, blank. So, and then you can cross that with the Greek New Testament, which says in 2 Timothy 1:7, says, for Yahuwah has not given us a spirit of fear, but what is going on here? I don't know why it does that. Every time I put a new highlight on there, it just wants to exit out. All right, 2 Timothy 1:7, for Yahuwah has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Proverbs 9:10 tells us what the sound mind is, to know the law. So the Septuagint perfectly blends with what Paul is writing to Timothy, 2 Timothy. Paul's referencing the Torah, and we don't even realize it. Why? Because the Masoretic text takes away to know the law as a character of a sound mind. So you can kind of see, and this is more of a theory of mine, but the Masoretes on purpose were taking stuff, omitting stuff, so there's no connection between the New Testament and the Old Testament, so that it would make Paul sound like a crazy person. Because he's talking about something that's of a sound mind, and Christianity could just say, well, to do what's quote unquote moral is of a sound mind, and we don't need to worry about the ceremonial things and yada yada yada. So I mean, you can, without understanding what the sound mind is Paul is referencing here, you can make up your own ideas what a sound mind is. So that, to me, that's pretty important that was taken out of Proverbs 9:10, to know the laws, the character of a sound mind. So again, the Septuagint of Proverbs 9:10 perfectly blends with 2 Timothy 1:7, and it shows you what the context is of 2 Timothy 1:7. Now we're getting to Proverbs chapter 2 down here. So we've already went through a couple cross references already. Shalom, Sister Alyssa just joined us. All right, so this difference is an interesting linguistic difference, but kind of shows you that the Masoretes pick and choose how they want to translate their Hebrew words here.
Doug, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Witness for Paul.
Yeah, Proverbs 9:10 of the Septuagint is actually a witness for Paul, because Paul's pulling on an Old Testament definition of what the sound mind is. in 2 Timothy 1:7. So he's literally referencing the Torah. He's actually saying, Yahuwah has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love, of a sound mind. So meaning to know the law. That's what he's saying. So you can't get that with the Masoretic text. Why? Because they omit half of the verse. Because they have an agenda. They don't want people to realize the New Testament is valid. So what they do, they take away some of the scripture that the New Testament would reference from that verse. So it's very devious, in my opinion. It's very devious. It's a way to make us that believe in the New Testament look like fools, if you see what I'm saying. So it's very intentional. It's not by mistake. It has nothing to do with copyright laws. It has to do with, I believe, this is my theory, it's to make Yahusha sound crazy, to make the apostles sound crazy. And this is another thing that just really, it blows my mind that people don't realize this. This verse is important to understand because when you look at the Hebrew word Rapha in the scriptures, your Masoretic text is going to just translate the Hebrew word Rapha universally as the dead, thinking that they're just talking about dead humans or whatever, or dead animals or whatever. But Rapha is the root word for Raphaim, and anyone that knows the Old Testament, the Raphaim were a tribe of giants, okay? So in actuality, this goes with the book of Enoch. Okay, this is talking about the dead giants, the spirits of the dead giants, which are demons. Demons are not fallen angels. That's a whole nother study for a whole nother day. Why we get confused with the idea that fallen angels are demons is completely Christian tradition. It's not in the scriptures. Nowhere in the New Testament does Yahusha ever mistaken a quote-unquote devil or demon as a fallen angel. He never ever says that. So again, a lot of it's tradition too. But if you look even in the Masoretic text here, I think this more or less is a translation issue. When you look at the dead, it says the dead, her house inclines unto death. So this is even worse. They're now translating it as death, like the death of something, when actually it's a specific dead being being spoken of. And if you go the way to, let's see here. No, my bad. It's this verse, in this part of the verse, not the first word. The first word is death. It is death. But the second word that they translate also as death is, where is it? Oh, I hate it when that happens. Here we go. H7496. This is trying to click on it. It's not doing anything. Okay, Rapha. Root word of Raphaim. Okay, notice how it says a ghost. What's a ghost? A demon. Okay? So those of you out there that are saying, the Book of Enoch's the only thing that tells us demons, that the demons are the spirits of the giants, guess what? Septuagint says it too. So the Book of Enoch's not making something out of the blue, because the Septuagint says, instead of the dead generally, it says, for she has fixed her house near death. That's the word that's supposed to be death. And guided her wheels near Hades, aka the pit, Sheol, okay, the grave, with the giants. Okay, so the Titans, or more specifically, the ghosts of the Titans. Okay, so the spirits of the Titans, the giants that were born from Genesis 6. Okay, so that's what demons actually are. So here we go. Now we're going to go to the next one here. And I just wanted to kind of explain why that verse is particularly important to understand the difference there. Let's see, Proverbs 3:4, Masoretic text substitutes. Now this is interesting here. Elohim for the Tetragrammaton. To me, that's interesting, because now you have our Father's name being substituted for a title which sometimes is not even referring to the Creator. That title can be used for angels, judges, rulers, kings. Okay, there's actually a commandment in the Torah that literally says, oh my goodness, guys on Telegram, chill out. Come on, guys.
You know, brother.
Yeah, they got
Before you go any further.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, here you pointed out something that just struck my mind, was that when people say the Holy Ghost, you know, like they use that as the term of the Spirit, you know, on the
That
Ruach.
was an old term.
They'll say Holy Ghost is, it's the Holy Ghost that touches
Good old
me,
King
or
Jimmy.
whatever
When I
have
was
you.
a little kid, they used that.
So I was just kind of like, wow, we got to watch our words and not use ghost for the Ruach. Could you hear me?
Yep. I had ourselves muted because my mom was just saying something to me. I didn't want her interrupting you, so I had ourselves muted. Yeah, I agree. Words mean things.
Right.
Like calling Yahuwah Adonai. Words mean things. Where does Adonai come from? Like, you know, that whole idea of tradition, just taking tradition for whatever, not thinking about what you're calling someone. You know, Proverbs 3:4 to me is very interesting. As you can see here from the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, has kurios here, all caps in English, Lord. If you go to the Masoretic here, it has God, H430, Elohim. So they actually substituted the Tetragrammaton here, the Masoretes did, with the title Elohim. And that's why they have God in English instead of the Lord. So they've actually, if it's not bad enough with the English substitutions, they actually, in their original Babylonian Hebrew, substituted Yahuwah's name for a title that can refer to angels, humans. It's generic. Elohim is very generic. So again, what does Exodus 20 tell us? Do not take the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to nothing. Do not bring it to nothing. You are bringing it to nothing by calling him Adonai, by in prayer or praise and worship, calling him Elohim as a name, like a proper name, using Elohim as a proper name when that's not his name. So to me, that I get very zealous in that way for our Father's name, and I hate it when I see either in our modern versions of the Masoretic doing that. Sometimes in the Septuagint, it does that too, because we don't have the original Septuagint. We have what's known as the Codex Vaticanus. What happened was, and there's a little history on our modern Septuagints. Mind you, we have modern copy of a copy of a copy at this point of both versions. So what happened was, when it got translated into Latin, when it went from Koine Greek into Latin in early 1st century AD, ages ago, these Catholic Church started messing with it.
Yeah, because they started Latin and Catholic.
Yeah, so they started messing with it. So probably what happened was they changed kurios to deus or theos. And it's probably what happened, because the Latin for theos is deus. So that's probably what happened. Which deus comes from the Greek deity, which is what Elohim means. That's all it means, deity. That's all it means. It's nothing special. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not a proper name. It's nothing special. It just means mighty ones, deities. That's all it means. There's so many different Elohims in the world. You got half the time people worship fallen angels. Half the time they're worshiping the giants, the children of the fallen angels, through heroes and stuff like that, and Hercules and all that. So there's many Elohims, like Paul says in the New Testament. There's many of them. So, you know, we got to be careful not to bring our Father's name to nothing.
Yeah.
That's part of the Ten Commandments. Do not bring his name to nothing. Do not call him Adonai. Do not call him Lord. Do not call him Elohim by name. And that's that's devaluing his name. So, and right here, as I was talking about this is where our modern Codex Vaticanus, which Brenton himself admits the source he used for his English translation of the modern Septuagint was the Codex Vaticanus. So unfortunately, Codex Vaticanus, it seems like they've changed the Tetragrammaton here, where the Masoretic text actually kept it in the next verse, which I find surprising. So there are vice versa. There's times in certain verses where the Masoretic text will have the Father's name, and certain times where the Septuagint will. It goes vice versa. And that's why I haven't fully thrown out the Masoretic text because of this reason. In Proverbs 3:5, it says, trust in Yahuwah with all your heart. Unfortunately, in the Septuagint here, it says theos. So that's the only problem. So I have to give the Masoretic text, I got to give them respect on how they did this verse. Okay, trust in Yahuwah, H3068, just to show you I'm not making this stuff up. See, it has the Tetragrammaton here for the Masoretic. Okay, with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. Okay, so again, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. Yep. Okay, so verse 7, again, something happened when the Codex Vaticanus was made. I'm telling you, something happened. Because, again, we have the Masoretic text having the Tetragrammaton where the Septuagint has theos, unfortunately, in verse 7 in this chapter. So, be not wise in your own eyes. Come on, man. What is going on here? Stupid eSword today just wants to keep closing out every time I do a new shared screen. Okay, come on. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahuwah. H3068 here. Depart from evil. Okay, then we're done with that. So now we're going to go to the next one here. And we're not keeping too much time. These verses are self-explanatory. We got a lot of scriptures to get through. So all viewers and listeners, please forgive me, but I'm going to be doing bullet points here. It's going to be very quick. So Proverbs chapter 3, verse 15. Masoretic text says he, primary, she, secondary, which is important because guess what? In your English translations, they did not choose the primary definition for the person wisdom. Wonder why? Go to Italy, you'll figure out why. There's a throne to Mary wisdom, the mother of God. That's why they chose she over he, even though he is the primary definition of that modern Hebrew word. And in the LXX I have here, it says not in the Greek. That word is not even in the Greek. In the Septuagint version. So again, like I said, if you want me to show it, I can show it from the eSword with the Thayer's concordance here. I'll show you here. Go to Brenton's. All right, so you go to Proverbs, what was it, 3:15 I just said? Okay, so Brenton, what are you doing, bud? You're putting she there. Where's she? Okay, so again, like you can't trust English translators 100% because they got their own agendas. They got their own reason why. My theory is, and a brother corrected me, saying that you got to be careful not to promote anything that's doctrine, but that is a theory of yours. Okay, so even if this is just a theory and I can't prove it, there seems to be enough evidence out there that this is correct, that they're just inserting stuff in there. As you see here, for she, where is the Greek Strong's for it? On my screen here. There's no Greek Strong's for it, which means it's not there in the Greek. It's not there. They're adding it in there. So again, and we just did a study about that. So that is, if you're interested more about that topic, who is wisdom, who's the person wisdom in the book of Proverbs, I would suggest you watch our study called Who is Wisdom? Female Divine Debunked. So, anyway, I don't have much time to really beat a dead horse with that, but please watch that if you're still confused and still deceived to think that the set-apart spirit's a female entity. I would really suggest you watch our study on that. But anyway, Proverbs 8, verse 25 clearly shows you in the Septuagint who wisdom is. There's only one begotten of the Father. All of us that accept the New Testament, right, we understand that. There's only one begotten of the Father, okay? So Proverbs 8:25 in the Bren's English Septuagint says, he begets me. That's Yahusha. He's talking about that whole chapter. If you take it in context all the way from verse 22 down to 30, Yahusha is basically giving you what's known as, I guess, backtracking. He's backtracking from the creation of the world and telling you he, wisdom, Yahusha, the word of Yahuwah, was with the Father from the beginning, before anything was created. I know there's a lot of people that think he's a created being, but honestly, if he's a created being, then we have a problem with Proverbs chapter 8. Because he's telling you he was with him from the foundation, before the foundation of the world. He's telling you that he was with him from the beginning. And he's actually even saying, if you look at the Septuagint, he said, he made me the beginning of his works. Meaning, I am the tool. I am the co-creator that the Father used to create everything. To create angels, everything. So, and that's important to understand. So the Masoretic text, the difference there is the brought forth. So that's the main difference there, is that it's brought forth versus begotten. Us that come from a Christian background, begotten is just a little bit more literal. It's a little bit more obvious, in our opinion. You can link that up with the book of John, the only begotten, John chapter 1, So I got to keep reminding myself to put this parallel option on, so it's a lot easier to get through this stuff. So, yeah. So we're going to go to the next cross-reference here, but just to show you here. So before the mountains were settled and before all the hills, he begets me. I was brought forth. So in my opinion, it's a little bit stronger for in the Septuagint. It's a little bit stronger for our case that believe in the New Testament. So as we move on here, we got Proverbs chapter 4, verse 2. LXX says gift. His Torah is a gift. Do not, I give you a gift. Do not forsake my law. Masoretic text says doctrine. Like I said, that's a little bit more strong here, where I see the Masoretic text is not honoring the Torah as much as the Septuagint, which I kind of find funny. Because if you ask most people, the Septuagint would be accepted by only Christian circles. Kind of find that funny. So it's actually being a stronger case for keeping his law with a Old Testament that Christians would accept versus the Jewish Old Testament. For I give you a good gift, forsake ye not my law. Septuagint, Masoretic, I give you good doctrine. If you ask me, doctrine sounds a lot less positive than gift. Let me see here. Verse 11 of the same chapter, we have present tense versus past tense. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because sometimes with the definitions, when you look at the concordances of these words, they don't tell you whether it should be past tense or present tense. So again, this is more of a, unfortunately, you got to trust the translator on this, unfortunately, because they for whatever reason, these Greek and Hebrew words, they never can tell you specifically if it's really a past tense word in the definition or a present tense. It's like you got to trust them on how they're translating it. It's like you literally got to take them for their word. That's the way it should be translated. Like, for example, we'll get to the verse here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. For I teach you the ways of wisdom, and I cause you to go in right paths. Now, that's interesting. The ways of wisdom, Yahusha is the way, the truth, the life. Just saying. Okay. But the Masoretic and like my mom's Bible would have it past tense. I have taught you. So how can we figure out whether it's present or past tense if the definition in their own concordances don't even tell us? That's where it gets tricky. That's where you gotta I guess you gotta look at the context of the verse. Like, I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the right paths. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think future present tense would make more sense. So I kind of agree with the Septuagint in my opinion on that one. If that's the case, if that's really a future present tense verb that they're translating. Uh, but again, it's very tricky because you don't really know from the definition even. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 4, gall versus wormwood. So this is interesting because we know that Yahushua had to drink gall. Okay, so again, it's just a little bit stronger connecting the New and Old Testament together here in the Bretons. See here, it says Proverbs 5:4, which I think the context is talking about a harlot, so it's a different context. It's not really talking about anything messianic, but just the fact that they have the word gall there, I find interesting. Verse 4 of chapter 5 says, in the Brenz, it says, but afterwards you will find her more bitter than gall and sharper than a two-edged sword. Now, this is interesting because in Hebrews 12:4, Yahushua, the word of Yahuwah, is sharper than any two-edged sword. So even though it's talking about a harlot, there might be a foreshadowing that King Solomon is putting in that book. And maybe it's a foreshadowing of the way Yahushua had to take that drink for us. He had to take the gall for us. We were a harlot. Yeah, that's the Masoretic. Yep, the Masoretic, like my mom just mentioned to me, her Catholic Bible has wormwood there. So yeah, so they take the Masoretic version of that. But both of them actually have sharper than a two-edged sword. Mm-hmm. Oh no, this is weird. Septuagint has sharper. Masoretic has sharp as. That's a
sharper.
Yeah, that's
or sharp. No, sharp.
Yeah, sharp as.
A.
Yeah, so equal to in the Masoretic versus the Septuagint saying sharper, which Yahusha, the book of Hebrews, the word of Yahuwah is sharper than any two-edged sword. So that's mainly why I chose that for this study, just to show that sometimes it foreshadows Yahusha in the New Testament a little bit more than the Masoretic. And he would have took the gall for us. The gall is an adulterous woman. So technically he's taking our punishment, us being adulterers and adulteresses, not serving Yahuwah of our whole heart. So, there is like a technical connection there. Proverbs 5:21. Yahuwah in the Masoretic, and this is where I have to side with the Masoretic here. Yeah, they at least have his name here, where the Codex Vaticanus modern Septuagint has Elohim. Man, this is why, and I was just talking to my brother Darnell the other day, this is why I can't go only Septuagint. There's errors in our copy of a copy. So, it's not the original. And that's the problem. We don't have the original Septuagint. We don't have the original Masoretic. All of this stuff is English translations of copies. And that's the biggest problem. That's why you got to test all things here. So again, because there's all caps Lord here with the King James of the Masoretic text, I would have to take the Masoretic text. For the ways of man before the eyes of Yahuwah, and he ponders all his goings. Yeah, go ahead, sister. Sister Sadie, I see your hands up. Go ahead. So the ways of a man are before the eyes of Elohim. Septuagint says there. Go ahead, sister. I saw you raise your hand. Go ahead, Sadie. Are you able to unmute yourself or?
Oh, yes, I did. I was talking away. Real quick question. What comes first, the Septuagint, the Masoretics?
If we're talking about the original manuscripts, which we don't have today for our Bibles, the Septuagint did. It came 285 BC. So it would have been a couple hundred years before Yahushua even came to earth. And it would have, well, actually more than that. Yeah, it would have been, it would have been about 200-300 years before he came to earth, because his birth, I think, is 1 BC. Most scholars put his birth. So, the year of 1 BC, which basically, to explain, BC means before Christ. That's a traditional rendering of BC.
Right.
So AD would be after his death, Addo Dominion, or after death. So 285 BC is the Septuagint, which means it's about 2 to 300 before he came to Earth. And then you have the original manuscript of the Masoretic, which we don't either have today either, was all the way down to like the 5th century AD. So if you're going to talk about what came first, obviously the Septuagint came first, but we don't have either originals of that because, like I said, the Septuagint at this point in early AD, that original Septuagint was already being translated into Latin. They were already making copies of it. And what we have today is actually known as the Codex Vaticanus, which Breton used, and I'm pretty sure the Apostolic Polyglot used, or they might have used a different Septuagint. According to Wikipedia, we have multiple variant copies of the original Septuagint, like Greek manuscript, copy manuscripts of the original Greek, but we don't have the original Greek. That's why I tell brothers and sisters, don't throw away the Masoretic text because we have to use both. We have copies of copies. We don't have original of anything. I have yet to see evidence of even having an original Targum. They're all copies of copies. So at the end of the day, that's what happens when you translate something to multiple languages, one source being translated into multiple languages. Eventually, you're not going to have the original anymore, either due to it just didn't survive through the ages, it got ripped up. I mean, you got to realize, too, what they were writing on parchment paper does not survive forever.
Right.
So, that's part of the problem, too, just historically speaking.
Thank you for putting that together because I had said yesterday, we just did my daughter-in-law, Jessica, I said, the Septuagint comes before, but we got in the Targums there's different, so we had all of them out and we were seeing things that others would say that did not say in the King James study, or even the Septuagint had a different take on it. And also we mixed in, we were able to pull in the book of Jasher and Jubilees, and they gave a different, not different, but it gave more insight to we were reading, I believe it was Genesis 28 or 29, so we were like, and I go, just read it again over here, Jessica, and I'll read it in this version, and we're like, wow, because each one of them had a chunk of gold. So so I just kind of was wondering which one would be more the reliable, but really they're not. None of them. I mean,
unfortunately, we don't have the original source of any one of them. So to pick one main one out of all of them, I don't think would be too smart because you're going to have errors in any one of the modern versions. I mean, we pretty much have a very modern version, especially I can see where we definitely don't have the original Septuagint. There's stuff missing. There's stuff omitted. There's So, anyway.
So then we go back to the fact that Yahuwah said, "Do not add or take from His word."
Yeah.
So there is a word out there that is pure, and maybe when He comes, or whatever was going to.
I don't think there's a pure. If you're going to talk about like a physical writing of His word, no, I don't think there's a pure version of His word left. Yeah. He's just going to throw a lot of people in the lake of fire. If you want my opinion, there's going to be a lot of people that have been adding to His word and taking away from His word. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. All you English translators that want to put all caps Lord instead of YHWH, and you do it on purpose, guess what?
I went to this list.
6,000 times, okay? I think the number count that most scholars would say 6,000 to 7,000 times. YHWH, YHUH, whatever pronunciation the Tetragrammaton has been replaced by all caps Lord. They're going to have to deal with that on Judgment Day. They're going to have to answer to that. All these people that have been messing with His word, they're going to have to deal with that. Oh, yeah. Whoever, when they made this Codex Vaticanus of LXX, because I've seen it on my sword, where verses from the book of Proverbs are just not there.
Yeah.
They're omitted. So those people that have done that,
that's bad.
You're literally going to have to answer, and I'm sorry, I don't see Yahuwah having mercy on people for
omitting verses.
willfully doing that. I don't see So,
Mm-mm.
but as far as proof for unadulterated word of Yahuwah physically written down on parchment, I don't think there's one left out there. If there is, it's not going to be released to the public. The Vatican would probably have control over it, because it seems like whenever his word is being tampered with, they're at the center of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Codex Vaticanus came from the Vatican. They translate the Septuagint into Latin, and guess what? What happens after they translate the Septuagint into Latin? We got problems like this, where it should be kurios and not theos, where verses from the book of Proverbs are taken out. So if there is an unadulterated version of it, it's held up under the Library of the Vatican, and we can't get to it. People like us can't get to it. So, I mean, we gotta make do with what we have. I mean, we still have a lot. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people getting discouraged. We still have a lot. Yahuwah he preserved his word enough to where we can use it to live according to his ways. If you don't get anything else from today, hold on to that statement. That even though his word is not preserved 110%, which we've been led to believe in Christianity, that, the King James is the infallible word of God and yada, yada, yada. He's preserved his word enough to where if we really search for it, we start looking to the older versions like the Septuagint, the Targum, this and that, you will find remnants of his pure word that he had Moses write, that he had Ezra write. What you got to understand too is that the originals were destroyed long ago. If you accept Fourth Ezra as canon, the book of Second Esdras, also known as Fourth Ezra, it's told to Ezra he has to rewrite the Torah. So in his day, they did not have written scripture. They did not have written Torah. He had to rewrite the Torah, him and a couple other scribes. So probably around the time of Jeremiah, there's a verse in the book of Jeremiah where it talks about the king burned a scroll. Okay? Who knows? That could have been the scriptures. And that's more of my theory of what happened to the original, and why we'll never see that original Torah of Moses, like the physical written Genesis to Deuteronomy of Moses and Joshua. We'll probably never ever see that, because it doesn't exist anymore, because it probably got burned by that wicked king of Judah back then in the days of Jeremiah. And then, the only original that would still be today would be Ezra's scriptures that Yahuwah told him to write around the time of Fourth Ezra, which would have been, around the time of them coming back from Babylon. So, and again, that's an assumption that it's still around today. We have no proof that that would be still around today. So, we just got to take for what we have. We're Baruch that we have all these resources.
Oh, absolutely.
Concordances, tons of translations to pick from. That some translators try to do their best to correct the Masoretic text, like the NLT, they try. I've seen places where they cater to the Septuagint over the Masoretic even. So, Yahuwah is giving us enough resources. But anyway, off of that tangent. But anyway, I just want to explain that. I don't want brothers and sisters getting discouraged. But this is the reality. I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. This is the reality. But here in, let's see. So we just did Proverbs 5:21, Masoretic text, Yahuwah, LXX, Alihim. So the Masoretic text actually does the better job in that one. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 1. Now, this is where I would say you take the Septuagint over the Masoretic here. Proverbs 7, verse 1, Masoretic text lacks half of the verse. So the good thing about even our modern Septuagints is shows that there's stuff missing. It's kind of like the extra biblical books in a way. Shows that stuff's missing. It's like these Masoretes are not just changing Yahuwah's name to Alihim. That's the least of our worries what they're doing. It's still pretty bad, but they're also taking away stuff. They're completely omitting half of verses, taking a whole paragraph off. I'll show you here the difference here on my parallel here. The King James says, my son, and the King James uses the Masoretic. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with you, period. That's it. Show you the difference with the Septuagint here. My son, keep my words and hide with you my commandments, my son. Honor Yahuwah, and you shall be strong, and fear no one but him. So the Septuagint actually has the Kurios there, which we know is Yahuwah. And then there's like a whole paragraph missing from the Masoretic, this whole thing, the whole paragraph. So, it's, the Masoretic, for what little, and this is why when I study the Bretons or the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, also known as the AVP 2006, that is like my go-to Old Testament. Usually I'll start reading chapter by chapter studies during the week with that as my primary. If I see something wrong, then I'll go to my Masoretic or my Targum. I usually try to use the Septuagint as my go-to.
I think it's worded pretty good in here.
Let me see your Jerusalem
Keep it as
Bible
the
there.
apple of your eye, and
Yeah, but they're still
bind
missing.
them to.
They're still missing in that. Verse 1 is the only one I read. My son, keep my words and treasure my principles. Keep my principles, and you will live. Yeah, that's not even part of verse 1. The only verse 1 they have here is, my son, keep my words and treasure my principles. Okay. And then that's it. I only read verse 1. So the Masoretic text is missing like whole paragraph from verse 1.
It's interesting, though, how it has a comma instead of a period.
Yeah.
It makes it look like one,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Catholic Bible is trying to more go along with the Septuagint. I mean, like I said, their version of Psalms in the Latin Vulgate manuscript is the Septuagint of Psalms. Like, it will almost mirror the Septuagint of the Book of Psalms. So I wouldn't be surprised if Proverbs was the same way. But once St. Jerome got to the Torah when he was doing the Latin Vulgate, he supposedly lost faith in the Septuagint and then went to the Masoretic for the Torah and the rest of the Old Testament. So that's where he screwed up. So, but anyway, Proverbs 9:12, Masoretic text lacks half of the verse again. So, like I said, like I'll put it this way: even with our modern versions, you're going to see a lot more wrong with the Masoretic than the Septuagint. I'll put it that way. Even with this one book. So now we're up to Proverbs 9 now. We'll probably have to do a part 2 and finish this study another day, just because there's a lot here. So was it Proverbs chapter 9, verse 12, I think? All right, so in the Masoretic it says, if you will be wise, you shall be wise for yourself. But you scorn, you alone shall bear. So very weirdly worded there. Okay, the Septuagint says, son, if you be wise for yourself, you shall also be wise for your neighbor. So that's interesting to leave out. And if you should prove wicked, you alone will bear the evil. He that stays himself upon falsehoods attempts to rule the winds, and the same will pursue birds in their flight. For he has forsaken the ways of his own vineyard, and he has caused the axles of his own husbandry to go astray, and he goes through a dry desert and a land appointed to a drought, and he gathers barrenness with his hands. All of that is missing in the Masoretic text version of that verse. That whole paragraph I just read is missing. They only have like 1 or 2 sentences of that in the Masoretic. So this is why we're doing this type of study, viewers and listeners. This is why. Because there are huge differences here. This is not just, a little wording. No, this is like half of the verse is missing. Literally. So now we're going to go to Proverbs 9:18. Another time the Masoretic text is missing half of the verse. Okay, so this is why I joke around. It's like 2 different books. When you look at the Masoretic text Proverbs and this Proverbs, is like 2 completely different books. All right, hold on. What is... All right, verse 18 of the Masoretic says, but he knows not that the dead there, her guests in the depths of hell.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it sounds funny is that all these that are whited out here, these English words that are whited out, are not in the Hebrew. So it really makes it sound weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like the English translators had to add in are, that, are. So, that's why it sounds weird the way I'm reading it. Because I'm trying to read it from what the Hebrew would say, not from what the English translator wants to add in there. Septuagint says, but he knows that mighty men die by her. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is referring to the giants. I would not be surprised. He knows that mighty men die by her, and he falls in with a snare of Sheol, hell, Sheol, but hastens away. Delay not in the place, neither fix your eye upon her. For thus shall you go through strange water, but to you abstain from strange water and drink not of a strange fountain, that you may live long and years of life may be added to you. Now this is talking about the strange woman, the adulterous woman. Don't go near her well. Don't drink strange waters. Proverbs talks about drink waters of your own cistern and all that. So all that's missing in the Masoretic text, that whole paragraph I just read. So Masoretic text stops at depths of hell when you got this whole paragraph here that's missing. So let me see here. I'm going to go to, all right, Proverbs 10, verse 4. We got about 15, 20 minutes left of this study. And we'll see how far we get. Probably get halfway through. Masoretic text lacks a son who's instructed shall be wise and shall use the fool for a servant. Yeah, that's kind of important to leave out. So I'll show that on the parallel here. And see here. So that would be Proverbs 10:4. Okay. Proverbs 10:4. So let's see here. Chapter 10, verse 4 here. So he becomes poor that deals with. Here, come on, guys. Stupid e-sword today, man. What are you doing? Okay. So Proverbs 10:4 here. All right, here we go. He becomes poor that deals with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent make rich. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it says there.
Mine says too.
The Brenton's English Septuagint says, poverty brings a man low, but the hands of the vigorous make rich. A son, and this is what's missing here in the Masoretic, a son who is instructed shall be wise and shall use the fool for a servant.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows you the paradigm that's supposed to be the wicked serve the righteous. That's what it's telling you there, to put it plainly. So that's missing in the Masoretic text. Masoretic text here, oh boy, here we go. Omits the tetragrammaton. Oh, I am so shocked. Yeah, I'm so shocked. Masoretic 10 verse, Proverbs chapter 10 verse 6 here says, and I'll just show you here because I know people are going to be, commenting, oh, it's lowercase. All right. No, I know people. I know the trolls out there. All right. Does this make you happy? All right. Okay. I'll show you that it says, oh, where is it here? I'm on the wrong verse here. Here we go. Here you go. All caps. There you go. A baraka. So baraka is upon the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Okay. And just to explain to you, the reason Brenton's never has it all caps, it's a tradition to have it in all caps when it's referring to the tetragrammaton. Is not necessary. It's a tradition. It's a way to let the reader know that that's where Yahuwah is supposed to be. It's really not needed. So that's why the Bretons won't ever have all caps like the ABP does. So I usually use the ABP to show people it's not Adonai, because people will have, will reason, oh, it's lowercase, so it means it's master. No. So as you can see here, there's no Yahuwah here, and the ABP would read as, the baraka of Yahuwah is upon the head of the righteous,
Right.
but the mouth of the irreverent, impious is an old British word meaning irreverent, not fearing the Father. He covers up. Mourning with untimely with mourning. So basically it's saying that Yahuwah will visit those that don't fear them with untimely mourning. Oh boy. Yeah. So, all right, here we go. So we're going to move on here because we're losing a little bit of time. Let's see here. I would like to get to at least chapter 11 or 12 before we go. Chapter 10, verse 29. Masoretic text says way, the way. Septuagint says fear. So now we're going to go into that. So that's the same chapter, verse 29 here. Just move on down here. Okay, so just try to quickly do this here. All right. So, is the fortress of the sacred, the fear of Yahuwah is the fortress of the set apart. That's the Septuagint there. But destruction to the ones working evil. Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Yahuwah, to be in the presence of Yahuwah is a fortress to those obeying him, but not to those that don't fear him. It's dread to be in, like how Paul says, and like this, Sister Sadie, this might be also a proof that Paul is not a heretic, because he might be quoting this when he says it is fearful to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. He might actually be referencing Proverbs 10:9, that it's fear. The context would be that it's fearful for the wicked to fall into his hands, into his presence, because that's what it exactly says there. Maybe the Brentons makes it a little bit more clear here. All right. Yeah, so that was 10:29. Just going to see if the Brentons makes it a little bit clearer. The fear of Yahuwah is a stronghold of the set apart ones, but ruin comes to them that work wickedness. Yeah. So the difference here, like I said, the way of Yahuwah. I mean, you can still get what the way of Yahuwah is if you know the New Testament, but again, like it's not as verbatim. It's not as specific. So again, Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3, LXX has destruction of the wicked is quick and causes joy. Oh boy. Yeah. That's interesting. So Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3. I'm going to go to chapter 11 now. Okay, let's see here. When a righteous man dies, this is Septuagint here, he leaves regret. But the destruction of the wicked is speedy and causes joy. Basically, the way I could interpret that is no one's going to miss a wicked person. No one's going to miss an evil person. And technically speaking, the righteous do have regrets because they, like me, I can just put myself in that situation. When I die, I'm going to regret that I didn't start off on the right track, that I didn't start off with believing in Yahushua when I was a child. So that would be the regret there. A regret from the righteous. And then you got the King James over here with the Masoretic saying, the integrity of the upright shall guide them. Wow, that's a lot different. But the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. So it's just very vague in the first part there. It's like the integrity of the upright shall guide them. I could see like people just twisting that from the Masoretic and just making it like, well, just means you're upright. You're a good person. I can see people just, really working their way around that wording there. It's very vague in my opinion. So again, we're going to 11, verse 6, and I think we just read that, their own destruction, if I'm not mistaken. We just read verse 6. Or no, that was, let's see here. Let's go to that if we haven't read that yet. Okay, so the Septuagint of chapter 6, of verse 6 of this chapter says, so the righteousness of upright men, this is the Septuagint here, delivers them, but transgressors are caught in their own destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it a lot more specific there. The righteousness of the upright, this is the Masoretic here, shall deliver them. So their own righteousness delivers them, but transgressors shall be in naughtiness? Are you kidding me? That is so vague. Naughtiness? Either that's King Jimmy really not knowing what that word means, or they really butchered that up, that word. Go ahead, Sister Sadie.
Well, that is like what's going on right now in the courts, or like what's currently happening with this Epstein. He finally, Yahuwah finally exposed him, and so he gets caught. So in his evilness that he's been doing to all these children, and that's big. But we got to look at what we do within our own selves. But that has been blasted out, and the whole universe is seeing it right now. So we got to take a look at it. Just because we're not up in Hollywood and have our names out there in the billboards and stuff or wherever, we still have to be very careful ourselves of what we do, because there's proof in the pudding through his word that you do evil, the Father's going to expose you. And that's all there is to it.
Hallelujah. Yeah. And there's scripture that actually talks about woe to those that think they're right in their own eyes. So, when we start making morality relative, it's very bad. See here. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 7. See that at the death of a righteous man, his expectation does not perish. So I believe that little quote I have there is from the Septuagint, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what the difference is in verse 7 here. A death of a righteous man, at the death of a righteous man, his expectation does not perish, but the boast of the wicked perishes. Interesting. So when a righteous man perishes, the wicked have nothing to say.
I find verse 4 in my Bible very interesting. In the day of wrath, riches will be of no advantage, but virtuous conduct delivers from death.
Yeah, there's pretty much no difference in that one. Oh, I know why I didn't include that. It's not there in the Septuagint. That's an omitted verse. That's why. It's not part of this study. I'm trying to stay away from the omitted stuff because I can't compare.
Oh, okay.
So, that's the only reason I didn't include that for this study, because it's not there. I can't really compare it.
I find it interesting.
Yeah, it is. So the death of the expectation will not perish. Okay. Now the difference with the Masoretic here, I think, is when a wicked man dies, expectation shall perish, and the expectation of unrighteous man perishes. So there's like no mention of the righteous there. Very strange in verse 7. Extremely strange. So the Masoretic text just mentions what happens to the wicked guy, not the righteous. Very weird. So we only got a couple more to go, guys, on the first page, and then I think next time we'll continue this. All right, so we're up to Proverbs 11:10 here. When the wicked perishes, there is shouting. Interesting. So this common concept of there's joy, there's shouting, there's celebration when the wicked perish. So I think when we look at scriptures, when David says, do not rejoice when your enemy falls. And people, I think, take this completely out of context. And there is verses where it shows that it's righteous to rejoice when the wicked falls. I mean, I don't know. You might want to try to really pray about that verse and ask the Father to give you discernment on that verse, because if we take that literally, we can never rejoice over our enemy. Then you kind of have to ignore a lot of the book of Proverbs. So let's see here. In the prosperity, so this is verse 10 here we're up to in this chapter. In the prosperity of righteous men, a city prospers. Okay, so that's what Septuagint says. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, shouting. So the Septuagint is missing, actually. There's shouting when the wicked perish. That's kind of interesting. So that's actually that's something I would actually agree with the Masoretic over in that particular verse, that they actually have that there. This is interesting too, verse 13. Now we're up to verse 13 here. Masoretic text, of an assembly. Okay, so we got of an assembly. That's missing. So it's very weird. It's like they just want to take a little here away from the text, a little there away. It's like it's so weird too. It's like little things, but they're important that change the context of a verse. Verse 13 here. A double-minded tongue, the Septuagint says, a double-minded tongue discloses the secret counsels of an assembly. Basically meaning, gossip, telling people stuff, the secrets of your friends that you shouldn't be telling people. That's what it's saying. Yeah.
Mine says a tittle-tattler.
Oh, for the love of...
Is that a riot?
All right.
Tittle-tattler.
Catholic Bibles are trying to be a little too modern now. All right, tattletale.
Yeah.
Anyone that complains to me, I can't read these old English Bibles. Go get a Jerusalem Bible.
Yeah, true.
Go get a Catholic Bible then, because that is so watered down. Tattletale.
Yeah, tattletailer.
A double-tongued man discloses the secret of counsels. Stupid thing. Why did it do that? It decided to go all the way up to verse 1. That's not where I'm on. Double-tongued man discloses the secret of counsels of an assembly, so that's what's missing. But he that is trustworthy in spirit conceals matters. So for whatever reason, they have secrets, but of an assembly they leave out in the Masoretic. It's very weird. It's like they really go through all the trouble to leave out stuff. Like, you're really going out of your way to leave that out, to take that out. Like, you're going to leave everything else in and then take that out. Brother Dennis just joined us. So, Dennis, we're finishing our Proverbs study, our part 1 of our Proverbs study right now. So, we're on Proverbs 16, verse 26 says, his own ruin. Okay, so his own ruin. So we're going to go to that. 16, verse 26. And let's see here. Okay, so chapter 16. Okay, whoa. Yeah, this is where it messed up. No. All right, please bear with me, guys. I have to scroll down. Please bear with me. All right, here we go. 16, verse 26. The Septuagint says, a man who labors for himself and derives from him his own ruin. Okay, so that's talking about someone who labors from themselves come to their own ruin. Okay. Masoretic, he that labors not for himself, for his mouth craves it of him. Same thing. I don't even know. I probably shouldn't have even included that particular verse. That's such a weird little minor difference there. Yeah, but whatever. Proverbs 11, verse 15, and then we got verse 16. We'll probably end it after that for today because we still got a whole half of a book to get through. We'll probably do it on next Shabbat or sometime during the week if we have enough of our brothers and sisters are available. So Proverbs 11:15 and 11:16. 11:15 we'll do first. All right, so in 11:15, there's a huge chunk seems to be missing here. It says, a bad man does harm wherever he meets a righteous man, and he hates the sound of safety. Now that's interesting. So basically meaning a wicked man always does harm to a righteous man. So, all right, let's go back to chapter 11 here, verse 15. All right. All right, a bad man does harm wherever he meets a righteous man, and he hates the sound of safety. Masoretic says, he that is surety, which I think surety means you're collateral. You've become collateral for someone, like you owe someone. For a stranger shall smart, and he that hates suretyship is sure. So wow, it's a big difference. You have one talking about basically a man that labors for himself just for the sake of, I guess, money, just for the sake of laboring for your own desires, comes to nothing in the Septuagint. And then the Masoretic text is talking about being collateral for someone else. So that's like, whoa, that's two different things. That's like, I don't know how you can have that big of a difference. Like that's verse 16. Here's the last one for today, and then we're going to leave the other half for another day. Okay. Masoretic text lacks half a verse. So again, we have the Masoretic lacking half of the verse. All right. So we go to the next verse, literally the next verse here. So it's already after 4 now. All right. So here we go. And it says in the Bretons, a favorful or merciful wife brings esteem to her husband, but a woman hating righteousness is a theme of dishonor. The slothful come to want, talking about those that are lazy. The lazy come to be of need of things like food, water, clothing. But the diligent support themselves with wealth, meaning like you're self-sufficient. If you're diligent, being diligent will lead to you being self-sufficient. You won't be in need of anything. You won't need to depend on someone else. And the Masoretic, I think, is lacking half of that verse that talks about the slothfulness and a woman. What happens if a woman's not righteous? So. Yeah, a woman so this is what the Masoretic is missing. But a woman hating righteousness is of dishonor, is a theme of dishonor. The slothful come to want, but the diligent support themselves with wealth. So it's missing like that whole paragraph. So that's pretty much all we can read for you today, all we can fit in for today. Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned to our part 2. We should be getting to it. Our group should be getting to the part 2 either sometime during this coming up week or Yahuwah willing next Shabbat. We'll finish it up. So we'll be starting up on the part 2 with Proverbs 11:18. We'll start next time. And then we'll get through because we still got like 20 chapters left. So we can't fit it all today. So thank you for joining us. And if this topic is an interest of yours, I will be leaving links to the Septuagint, how to get the Septuagint for free legally online and download it on a PDF file, how to access the Targum from the Targum.info website if you want to start looking into the Targums for the Old Testament. pretty much the Masoretic text, you probably have a Bible that has it. Every Bible that, you own, like an NIV, a Catholic Bible, the ISR, the Hallelujah Scriptures, all of them are based solely or 80 to 90% on the Masoretic text. So you don't need to worry about finding the Masoretic text. You have it. The chances are you have it in front of you. So I'll leave you links for the Septuagint. There's Bibles out there that are Septuagint only and actually are Greek New Testament, known as the ABP. I mentioned it before. So there's actual Greek Orthodox Bibles out there if you're interested. After Shabbat, I'll send links out to actually buy physical versions of the ABP Bible, which the physical version is actually interlinear. So you'll actually see the Greek on top of the English and all that. So anyway, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to leave this time right now for my brothers and sisters just to mention anything they want to mention, anything that came to their mind. I know Brother Dennis, he got on late, so he didn't really hear most of the study, but if there's anything he would like to share, Marissa, Brother Isaiah, Brother Sadie, Sister Sadie. So Sister Sadie, Sister Marissa, Brother Isaiah, and Brother Dennis, if you guys have anything to add before we close out.
It just amazes me how they change a lot of things. I remember reading in the King James when Paul was going to Damascus when he was struck blind. And Yahuwah spoke to him and said, why do you kick against the prods? Well, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
And we found out later on through another translation, why are you against the truth? Well, why didn't they just say that?
Yeah, supposedly apply against the prods, it's like an idiom. It's either a Greek or Hebrew idiom that refers to going against the grain, going against the truth. Yeah. It's like you're purposely hurting yourself. You're purposely screwing yourself over. That it's like, yeah, I've heard that that's an idiom, and that's why the King James used it, probably because the Greek New Testament uses it as an idiom, and yeah.
You also get a lot of Old English stuff.
Yeah, the Old English, though, is not that bad. As you see today's study, the Old English is not the problem. The problem is the way they translate it into Old English, like certain words are mistranslated and stuff like that. So, I can read Old English and be fine. The Bretons I just used today is Old English. That's considered Old English. That's 1851. That's Old English. That's not modern English. It's not that hard to understand. So I always laugh when people say, oh, I like the Bible in basic English or all these watered down versions, because it's like King James is 1611 King James is 6th grader reading level.
Yeah.
We've all graduated high school, I would
difficult.
think. So it's not that hard. So I don't stick with the King James for many reasons. Easter's mistranslated, Passover's mistranslated as Easter. That's the reason I don't use it as my sole translation, because there's our English Bibles, there's so many differences in it. So I don't use one main English translation, because the majority of the Greek and Hebrew words, they don't know what they mean. They say they do, but they don't. But anyway, yeah, Brother Dennis, I agree. The kicking against the prods, it's just it's a weird idiom. It's a very weird Greek or Hebrew idiom either way. If it was only in the Greek New Testament, not the original New Testament, then most likely it was probably an idiom they used in their culture that would have meant literally in English, kicking against the truth, going against the grain, or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so if that's it, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Please stay tuned for part 2 of the differences of the book of Proverbs. We will be starting part 2 later on, and thank you for joining us. If you found this information helpful and you like the studies we put out, please consider subscribing. Please put a like button, share, and press the notification bell when you guys will see this on YouTube. Thank you again. Have a great rest of your Sabbath, our brothers and sisters out there that have seen this on Facebook. Shalom.
Shalom, brother. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for putting that all together. That was awesome.